Wow. I hate when that happens. The microphone goes off for some reason. you know, I mean, like, weird shit starts happening when I start talking about religion. I mean, like, unbelievable. Anyway, so I'm going to start over because I think that it's a worthwhile topic to talk about. And what I'm going to say is that I believe that all religions are bullshit. Every single one of them. Every single one of them is bullshit so long as there is the human element to it. So there are ideas which transcend the humanity of us, something that we can look forward to. So I was in the midst of saying that there were people like Jesus Christ who may have died for our sins, who may have been, not may have been, he was definitely an enlightened human, possibly human being. It's not yet, it hasn't been determined after all these years. But then there's also Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha came 600 years before Jesus Christ. And I'm going to tell you something that's a very interesting fact. And this is that, have you ever heard of Stoicism? Stoicism is a belief system which was championed and written at length by Marcus Aurelius. And a lot of these teachings and stuff like that about Stoicism came around the year around 240 BC. Well, guess what happened around 300 BC? Buddhist teachings reached the Hellenistic territories. So, being that Stoicism and Buddhism are so closely linked to each other, it is entirely possible that as hubris as humans are, they have decided, like some people like Marcus Aurelius, who may have been taught by a Buddha, decided to call it Stoicism, make it his own, because he was the emperor, of his lands. That's entirely possible. Who knows? Who knows what goes through who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Certainly, purity is not the driving force of humanity. And that is evident in everyday action. If purity was the driving force of human activity, then this world would be a very different place. But it's not. And all you got to do is open up your eyes, and take a look around you. World events, the Jews, Holocaust in Gaza. Their whole plan is to take over Gaza. And then they will fight with Iran. Once they're able to conquer Iran, which they will do, then they become one of the superpowers in the world. And that's their entire objective and entirely what they want to do. Now, don't think that all Iranians are Muslims. They have Persian Iranians. They have Christian Iranians. They have all sorts of Iranians. They have Iranians who are being hanged by the crane loads every single day just to like try to suppress their beliefs. So there certainly will be a factions and populations of Iranians who will welcome regime change. Unfortunately, for them, that regime is going to come in the form of the Jews. And when the Jews enforce their will, enforce their power, and enforce their own forms of what we would call Sharia law for Muslims, because the Jews have it as well. Don't think that they don't. If you don't think that they don't, I strongly suggest that you read the Old Testament, you read the Talmud, educate yourself about what these people are really all about. They're evil, and their ultimate goal is world domination. I didn't say that. I'm not the one who said that. They said it themselves. It's in their writing. It's in their teachings. And they're liars to your face. All those rabbis who pretend to be such good men. Men of the cloth. And that's when I realized I could never be a Jew. Well, first of all, I wasn't born one. But secondly, I don't even know how they even mixed up the Judeo-Christian beliefs. How is it Judeo-Christian beliefs? I mean, it was sort of like these Jews are masters of media. You know? The Jews killed Christ. Yet, America somehow is a Judeo-Christian society. How did that happen? It happened because Jews are very smart, or at least crafty. I've met a lot of stupid Jews, especially the inbred ones. But, man, that is one hell of a magic trick. That's not even a magic trick. It's just a fucking bullshit that they pulled over people's eyes and paid off politicians to say, oh, we live in a Judeo-Christian society and Judeo-Christian judicial system and stuff like that. If you study, and I suggest you do, read about it. Now, I'm not suggesting that you convert to Islam, because they're just as fucked up, if not more, than their cousins, the Jews. But through Christianity and through Buddhism and Hinduism and real religions of peace, we can unite in the common cause of peace. And that is the revelation that I have come. It's not a revelation because I'm not a divine person, divine being, but it is the I don't know what the English word would be for it, but it's the culmination of my thoughts, And I know that the last few times I've been mentioning religion and stuff like that, and that highly detracts from the amount of people who are capable of listening to any sort of outcast podcast that I do. They'd much rather have me talk about dogs and food and nice people and sunrises and sunsets and stuff like that. But unfortunately, there's only so many sunsets and sunrises, even though I do appreciate them every single day. And stray dogs and food that I could talk about, and nice people that I meet. Sometimes you have to talk about subjects that people don't want to talk about. And that is the dominant force on this planet. And it's a force, which is, it's a force even though it's only an idea. And that is religion. It's all fraud. It's all fake. Muslims use it to put fear into people so that the higher ups can control and live like kings. Christians do it too. Buddhists do it. But there are some that don't necessarily do it through open warfare and threatening the existence of the planet and humanity. And those are the ones that, thus far, I can say that I kind of have to follow along those lines, And that's basically it, It's a beautiful sunrise and everything like that. It's time in Thailand and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, censorship is a real thing. Shadow censoring is a real thing. I'll give you an example of censorship that happened to me the other day. I watch high stakes poker sometimes, and they play inside the United States for hundreds of thousands of dollars and sometimes multiple $1 million pots. And I simply typed into the box and I said, that if you're playing for this kind of money, that the IRS is going to come and make a claim on your winnings and your losses. And then they were like hemming back and forth about it a little bit. Some people were saying, oh, that's not true and whatever, which is total crock nonsense. Some people said that, they could fabricate losses and whatever. But the fact of the matter is that this high stakes poker site called Hustler Casino Live, I think they got bought out by another company. They have like an all-time winning list. And on that winning list, there are people who have won tens of millions of dollars. Don't you think that the IRS is interested in collecting taxes on that? Anyway, I proposed that as one of my talking points, and I was immediately met with backlash. And then guess what happened? The site gagged me from even talking. They wouldn't let me talk about it. But this was after one of the executives of the site said, "Oh, well, they're not really playing for that much money anyway," or something to that effect. So I was like, my next statement was, "Oh, so this is all fake." And then they gagged me. They blinded me and gagged me from their fake poker sessions. So not too much skin off of my back. I don't really care about that too much, other than the fact that I look at what I consume on YouTube and stuff like that, and just see how fake a lot of this stuff is. And what I did was, here's another thing that I did, and this like scared the heck out of people, like older people that I know, like live. I have a cicada tortoise, right? And so I made an AI 8-second video of a cicada tortoise attacking and eating one of our cats. Now, cicada tortoises would never do that. They're vegetarians and stuff like that. But this AI was so good at it that the people, these older people that I showed it to, like we ran the gag on them for a couple hours. And I guess that was kind of cruel in a way because, I mean, I mean, really probably should have told them. But the thing is that if you look, you look at the channel and you'll see, vicious vegetarian tortoise eats cat. It's fake. It's made by AI, by Google VO AI, and it's like totally fake. But it looks fairly convincing, except for the part at the end where the cat tries to walk away after having had half its guts eaten, which would never have happened. But anyway, check that video out because that's like a free service that Google offers, is that you can make 8-second generative AI videos of pretty much anything that you describe, and they are extremely convincing. I wouldn't suggest trying to make pornography or anything like that because I think there are rules about that. But apparently there aren't any rules about tortoises eating cats. So, however they make the rules, who knows? I mean, I'm sure pornography is a lot less harmful. Well, maybe minors. I don't know. Maybe you can like corrupt a minor's brain by like seeing a tortoise eating a cat. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a judge on that. I have my own opinions, and I'm gonna keep them to myself and just be a quiet little mouse and do my little thing. And I'm hopefully going to do something. Well, not hopefully. Here is my MO in life now at the moment. And my MO is this. Number one, I'm going to push for, and I don't need the Pope's, and I don't need a Pope's granting for this, but I am going to create amulets of Bob Marley, the saint, have them Christianed, and have them wholly baptized in Buddhist spirituality, because Bob Marley was a saint, and to suggest anything otherwise to me is just absolute nonsense when you have 12 and 13-year-old people who I mean, like, are made saints and stuff like that. And that's generally in Latin American countries because, they feel they feel such a sense of loss that they beatify and canonize these youngsters and stuff like that. But if you think of all the joy and laughter and happiness that St. Marley has provided over now, it's almost 100 years now. I mean, he's getting up there. When did he start playing music? In the 60s. It's 20s, 80 years, over 80 years, and almost 90 years ago, he provided music which is still pertinent today and bringing love, peace, and happiness to people. And therefore, for me, he is a saint, And I'm going to make some amulets, which I hope to sell on this channel for people who are of like-minded spirits. Now, I'm not going to try and gouge the price or anything like that. Just enough to, like, cover the cost of making them, shipping them, and maybe a couple of bucks for myself so that I can feed myself, because I don't have a job other than nothing. I don't have a job. I haven't made any money, and I haven't made any money. When's the last time I made money? I haven't made money in a long time. I'm just living off of air. Then I have a phone. Sometimes my wife has a little bit of money, so she puts money on my phone and stuff like that. So anyway, so I'd like to do that, but also there's another thing that I want to do is, and this is going to be a little bit more tricky and going to require a little bit more research, and that is I want to put the combine the Dhamma wheel, which is the Buddhist pendant, with the Christian cross and the Hindu. I'm not sure what it is because I have to take a look at what it is. But all religions of peace that don't propagate war and don't propagate the consumption of meat as a necessity, although perhaps sometimes as a luxury or sometimes as a ritualistic thing. I myself have acquitted myself of eating all vegetables. I mean, all fruits. No, what am I saying? Of all meat on this day. I am not going to eat meat anymore. I believe it's a sin. It's unnecessary. There are plenty of good food products out there to eat. You just have to train yourself and make it available to yourself so that you can eat these things, and you don't need to eat meat. It's not that, it's not, I mean, it's not that healthy for you. I mean, there's all these studies, you eat meat, you become stronger and stuff like that. But if you look at, like, back in the days of the gladiators, in order to make them stronger, they had purely vegetarian diets, which was proven over time. Anyway, but that's not just it. It also has a lot to do with health issues and stuff like that. And a lot of the meat most of the meat people eat these days are filled with hormones and chemicals and all sorts of shit. So hopefully I can do the organic vegetarian lifestyle, because it's something that I've always believed in. I've always believed in being a vegetarian, and that eating meat is a sin and unnecessary, because I believe that all creatures of the Piscine or rodent, mammalian, marsupial, avian are all sentient animals. If they weren't sentient animals, then they wouldn't scream and cry when somebody's trying to chop off their head. So that's just a little bit of basic common sense that I apply. And that's what I'm going to do. But anyway, I uploaded a whole bunch of songs onto the channel. And what I did was I used like AI restructuring models and stuff like that for songs that I like, had personal meaning for me and stuff like that. And then I also changed some of the words and some of the melody and stuff like that. So hopefully that will all be copyright, escape copyright infringement. And so far so good, because all the copyright checks have checked out. I have my favorite, which is a song that I did, was one of my favorite songs of all time, actually, in the original version, and that is Je ne regrette rien, which is by Edith Piaf, and after World War II. And I don't know if she sang it before World War II, but Je ne regrette rien. And I tweaked that song up pretty good, and I made the tweak and altered it for somebody that I care very deeply for, who unfortunately contacted me the day my wife died. And the day that my wife died, I did a lot of drugs. I was out of my head. I didn't care if I lived or died. I wouldn't care. I wasn't thinking about anything that I was saying or anything like that, you know. And but the person that contacted me, whose name is Grace Harry, is a dear friend of mine from growing up. I mean, we were best friends. And after the conversation that we had briefly, because she had hit me up, you know, she just wrote the last line she wrote to me was, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you felt that way." And I never explained to her in that conversation that my wife had just died of breast cancer, and that I was on very heavy drugs. Anyway, but that was over 10 years ago. Hopefully, somehow within this universe, she will hear that song, because that song is just how I think about her, because she was my best friend at one time. And yeah, I hope she hears it. Je ne regrette rien. And I hope you check it out yourself. And check out some of the remixes, covers, and stuff like that of songs and stuff like that that are in the public domain or changed enough that they don't infringe on any copyright. Anyway, I'd hope you check them out, because I put a lot of work into it, and I think they're pretty good. I think a lot of them are pretty good. I used to be a practicing musician. I studied Spanish classical guitar for 10 years, and I don't know why. I know why I gave it up, and I wish I hadn't given it up, because learning and music stays with you forever. And it's something that when all else fails and there are no human beings around, you know, you still can have that little bit of, I just found myself one bot. You can just have that little bit of solace in knowledge and practicing something that can bring you joy or sorrow. But, you know, that's basically, as they say, the way the cookie crumbles, right? That's the way the cookie crumbles, right? You know, life is definitely not perfect. I'm telling you, I'm having a heck of a time walking this 5 kilos. I want to tell you, 6 days ago, I had been doing my diet really well. Dieting and exercising, moving faster. And I'd gotten down to 107 kilo, which is 200 pounds multiplied by, that's like 240. like 236 pounds or something like that. You know, and for me that was a great achievement. But in the last 5 days, this is really amazing. I've gone back up to 114 kilos. How the heck can you put on 7 kilos, 7 kilos in 4 days? And I find my body just like in total lethargy, unable to move around the way I want to move around. But I do have my mind about me to some degree. And so I am going to continue on working on projects on the internet, projects which is one of the things that I'm working on is to see if there's any possibility to unify the peaceful religions of the world for a common cause against a very serious and imminent threat, which is extreme Christianity, extreme Muslim ideology, and extreme Judeo ideology. Those three religions or cults or whatever you want to call them are the three most dangerous aspects that face our world today. And if we don't face this as a unified group, it's going to be a real battle. It's going to be a war. People are going to die, and they're dying now, you know? There's no reason for it. All it is some stupid ideology, that some man created. So if you want to follow peace and happiness, life, there are other ways. And I just hope that through Hinduism and Buddhism and the more tolerant Christianity, Quakerism, religions of true peace, we have to unify and spread the peace. We have to spread the love, and we can't let this evil religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam take over our lives and start killing everybody, because that's exactly their MO. And don't think that it isn't anything other than that. They want to install fear in you and control you. And it has nothing to do with any God that anyone at the top of the chain of their command believes in. And that is the truth. Like it or not, that is the ugly, ugly truth. So, starting today, I'm going to start my research and see if I can come up with some sort of a religious pendant which incorporates Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity all in one, all unified for the purpose of peace and love. And let's see what happens. Where that goes, where did we go from there? And then there's also the other thing is a project I fully believe in, and that is the beatification and canonization of Bob Marley. It just doesn't make any sense to me. He hasn't been made a saint. I mean, if you don't make him a saint, who are you going to make a saint? If you go down If I was walking down the street right now, I could ask these people who are right in front of me, have you ever heard of Bob Marley? And they will say yes. And then I would ask them, have you ever heard of Mother Teresa? And they say, who? Okay. That in itself is proof enough to me that Bob Marley spread love and happiness, joy throughout the world and never had a bad thing to say. You know? And that's a fact. You know? Arun Sawat. Hello, hello. Good morning. Bye Tam Yang Lapao. Anyway. So, lastly, in this little Outcast podcast, I don't know how many people are listening. I don't have the counter on or whatever. But hopefully there is some good that comes out of this. And that is just to say, you know, treat your fellow human being or treat fellow creatures on this planet. Don't step on snails and ants and stuff like that just because you can squash the life out of them. There's no reason to do that. Don't do that. Don't smash butterflies or flies or other living creatures or run over birds and dogs, human beings, and stuff like that, because that is the path of evil. And if you follow that path of evil, it will eat into your soul and you will become completely evil. And there, once you are completely evil, there is very little hope for salvation. So my hope is everybody gets salvaged. And like even the simplest little thing like this. This is some form of a morning glory. Look how beautiful that is. You know? Those are the simple things. And they're so beautiful. Yeah, some people just wake up in their day and they just say, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna destroy as much as possible, create as much mayhem as possible. Fuck it, I don't care. I don't care who I hurt, what I hurt, so long as I get a couple of nickels in my pocket or whatever. And sometimes they don't even do it for nickels, pocket, or pennies. They just do it out of spite. And these are the people whose souls need to be saved. And if their souls can't be saved, then they need to go straight to another place filled with fire. Well, I don't wish that on anybody either. Maybe they can be rehabilitated. Maybe in a perfect world, that people who have these like things to some sort of like a godly re-education camp where they have to relearn what it means to be a human being or what it means to be good. And in a way, if you look at the Buddhist religion, you know, it makes total sense in a way. They don't send you to, the fiery pits of hell. They just tell you that you need to be reborn. And once you're reborn, you have to work your way back up through the ladder it could take thousands of years, but eventually your spirit and your soul will be released into nirvana. And that is something I look forward to if it ever happens to me. I will be very happy to be returned to the dust of the universe and the dust to be reborn in some form or fashion or just part of energy that this universe is running on. And the sad part is, one of the sad parts is, as science progresses, it gets more and more complicated. So I don't know. I know a number of scientists who are very high level scientists, PhDs and stuff like that, and even they, with all their astrophysicists and biological degrees and stuff like that, they are turning to the answer, that the only answer that they can come up with is the grand design, because they've spent their lifetime studying, and very, very intelligent people. And it's very difficult to make hide or hair of what's going on, especially when, you have all this AI and stuff like that and whatever. And I get into my thing about AI. When I think about AI and defense for AI, how are you going to defend yourself against AI? And the only way I can figure out to defend myself against AI is through the absolute belief in the light. Anyway, oh boy, I think I've rambled on just enough, just long enough. I got my little bit of exercise, and I hope that everybody's well, and may you have a wonderful, peaceful, and happy and healthy day wherever you are on the planet. And yeah, just try to be a good human being. Be good to other people. Cause no harm. Goodbye. Hope to see you tomorrow. And God willing.